Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm actually so excited for today's video because as you guys know, I've been kind of dabbling into the drugstore a lot recently and I've been finding some amazing products, and a lot of those amazing products are coming from the same brand, and that brand, as you can tell by the title, is Flower Beauty, and I'm just in love with all of their products. And so I thought, you know what, why don't I do a full face of Flower Beauty? And so I went to Walmart and picked up the last few items that I needed to create a full face. I didn't have like a brow product, I didn't have a bronzer or a highlighter, so a couple of these products are going to be brand new to me. The rest of them I already love and adore, so I'm so excited to create a full look with them. I'm going to be doing something that's really appropriate for spring and summer. I was really inspired by a bold lip color that I found in my collection, and I'm so excited to create this look because of that lip color. I follow a lot of celebrity makeup artists on Instagram, and I've also been kind of seeing a trend right now of reddish, orangish, melony lips being worn a whole lot, and a lot of times I feel like I put away my reds and I put away some of those colors after winter. So I decided to use a brighter color today on the lips, and it's really inspired by some of those celebrity makeup artists that I have been following, that I see these looks where it's just fresh and so spring appropriate. The statement is still the lips, so I just love the idea of a statement lip for spring. So let's just get right into it. I keep blabbing, but so we're gonna start off with the Flower Beauty In Your Prime Hydrating Primer. This is a new primer to me. This is the one that stood out to me. They have a few primers, but because I love the Maybelline Hydrating Primer so much, I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna give this a shot. So it's supposed to smooth and blur and make your makeup last longer, and it's supposed to be lightweight. So I got some on my fingers right here. Let's just apply this all over the skin. It's so weird that I don't have brows on either. Usually I start off with my brows, but you know what? We're gonna do a little bit of complexion today because the eye look is gonna be really simple. Whoops, got some in my hair. This primer feels nice. It kind of has a lotion feel. It feels actually pretty similar to the Maybelline one that I love, but this one feels a little more tacky, I think, which is actually not a bad thing when it comes to primers, because sometimes that means that your foundation will actually adhere a little better to your skin. There we go. Nice and prepped. I feel like my skin looks nice and hydrated. I love it. So for foundation, can you guess? This has been one of my favorite foundations right now. I mean, and we're talking like even with my high-end foundations, my drugstore foundations, like this is just something that I've been reaching for no matter what. It's the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Foundation, and I actually have two shades because I started out with the shade Ivory L2, but after going out in natural light, I felt like it looked a little bit pink on me. So I went and picked up L3, which this is really yellow, and so I have a neutral undertone. Both pink and yellow is in my skin tone, so I mix them now, which does make the foundation, I guess, a little bit more expensive since I bought two bottles, but you know what? It's such a great foundation. It's worth it to have the perfect shade. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix the two on the back of my hand, and I'm just gonna start to dot this all over the skin, and I'm first going to buff this out with a brush first, and then we're gonna go ahead and pat it out with this sponge, because I do have a Flower Beauty sponge that I've been loving too. As you guys saw in my last video, I picked that up recently at the drugstore, and it's so good. It's so soft and works really well. Guys, this foundation, it's so good. This might sound crazy, but I'm actually feeling the primer underneath kind of adhering a little bit more to the foundation. Like my brush feels like it kind of sticks to my face a little bit more, not in a bad way at all. I just feel like that hopefully will mean that the longevity of my makeup will be extended, you know? So there's our first layer. I'm gonna just mix a little bit more on the back of my hand, just so we have a little bit of product to pat in with the sponge so we don't get rid of any of this coverage, because I'm liking the amount of coverage we have. So I'm gonna take this Flower Beauty sponge. Look how squishy it is. It's so soft, really great. And I'm just going to take what's on the back of my hand and make sure that there's just a little bit of foundation in the sponge before I go in and pat over my face, and that just kind of helps it not pick up too much product, because again, I love a little more coverage. I'm gonna blend it down the neck a little bit. This foundation is honestly gorgeous. Can you see how glowy that made my skin look? Oh, I love this. I'm just gonna take what's left and kind of go over the eyelid as well. Let's go into concealer. I have the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Full Coverage Concealer. This is in the shade Fair. It's the lightest shade. I think it's called Fair. I'll link it down below just in case, but I'm just gonna go ahead and use this under the eye area, and I'm gonna do one at a time. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pat this out with the sponge. I should have actually picked up another shade of this concealer because it's a little bit light to cover blemishes blemishes, and I do have a couple down there, but we'll just make it work. So I'm patting that out all under the eyes and out kind of up here by the cheekbones, and then I take what's left on the sponge and I like to again go over the eyelid just to cancel out the veins that I have there. I'm adding just a little bit more right where I have the darkest circles just to give a little bit more coverage there. I'm also dabbing a little bit on the blemishes I've got, even though it's a little light of a concealer. Oh well, just making sure to really blend it out. Oh, I need brows. Do you guys see why I filled them in the beginning? I just feel so incomplete without my brows sometimes. All right, let's set the face. I have the Flower Beauty Light Illusion Perfecting Powder. When I first tried this out, if you guys watched that video, I kind of talked about it a little more negatively, just because it does kind of darken up the under eye area, as you guys can kind of see. And it's still doing that, but like I have used it again several times since, and I really have grown to love it a lot. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take a brush and set the under eye area with this first. I wish they made a lighter shade just so that I could have that brightening effect underneath the eyes. I will say it does an amazing job at kind of giving a smoothing effect, and it still leaves your skin looking really skin-like, which is something that I absolutely love about it. I just wish they had a shade that's just a little lighter to really brighten, but it actually doesn't look as bad this time because I added a little bit more concealer, I think, so it looks a little better. But then I'm going to take a larger brush and use this to really set the rest of the face. I love the idea of a setting powder giving like a skin-like finish because I love kind of more of a matte locked in feel, but I've been really loving the look of a more glowy foundation. So to have that kind of combo in a powder where you feel like it's set, but it kind of leaves a skin-like feel, it's just the best of both worlds, I think. I'm putting some in the brows too, so that that's nice and powdery. I just feel like sometimes when I do that, the brow product that I use will really adhere to the skin and last a little longer. Buffing it down the neck. All right, before I go crazy, let's do the brows. They had a newer product for brows that was like a brow tattoo thing. I was really nervous to try it. I've never tried something like that before, and I didn't want to like botch the whole tutorial just because of my brows. So I just picked up their normal pencil. This is their Draw the Line pencil. I got the shade Brunette. I love that there's a spoolie on the other end, so I'm just gonna brush up my brows. Oh, that's a nice spoolie. Sometimes spoolies from the drugstore, like on brow products, are super scratchy, but this one's actually really soft. I like that. All right, hopefully this shade works for me. It might be a little dark. Let's fill in the brows, kids. I'm using a really, really light hand. This product has a little bit of a waxy feel, which I personally try to avoid in brow products because I just feel like it's easy to accidentally get too heavy of a brow, like quickly. So I'm working with really, really light strokes to make this work. But I feel like as I alternate like using the product and going in with the spoolie to really spread it out, that kind of helps diffuse the product and make it look a little more natural than it would by just drawing the lines, because it's a really pigmented product. I think that that's working best. I feel like if I don't do that, it will kind of look like I've drawn on my brows with a marker. Yeah, like I literally draw a couple lines, then comb through, then go back, then comb through, and that seems to be working pretty good. Oh, and maybe I should have picked up one of their setting gels because I think they did have a brow setter, and I love brow gel, but I didn't pick it up. Okay, so those are the brows right now. I might touch them up later. You never know. But I feel like they worked. Again, I love brow products that kind of feel a little bit more powdery. I feel like I get more control over that and it looks more natural, especially for somebody like me who does not have a lot of brow. So I need to make sure that the brow product looks as natural as possible. I feel like I was able to make that work, but you do have to alternate back and forth from the spoolie and the product to really buff it out and blend it out and make it look a little more natural. I'm just taking what's left on the powder brush and kind of setting that so we can lock in the brow product. Okay, let's go into the complexion. I'm gonna go into this Lift and Sculpt contouring palette. This has been out for a while. I've just never tried it, so this is something new for me. This is in the shade light to medium. I actually accidentally bought the medium to dark one earlier. Whoops, almost dropped that. But I bought the medium to dark one earlier and didn't realize it till I was in the car, and I had to go back to Walmart and return it and find the light to medium because the bronzer would have been way too dark on me. So here it is, bronzer, blush, highlight. Let's just dip into this bronzer, shall we? I'm not really sure what to expect here. Seems a little radiant. I'm just really lightly pressing this onto the cheeks because I don't really know. Whoop. how pigmented it is. So I'm just trying to work in lighter layers so I don't get too patchy. You guys know I love to kind of blend bronzer into the hairline. That just gives a more natural effect because that's actually where you get tan. If you think about it, when you go out in the sun, if your hair's up, you sometimes get a little bit of a tan in that area. So it just makes it look like more natural. The shade is really pretty though. I feel like it's got the perfect undertone between like a contour, ashy tone, and like a bronzy warm tone. It's like a great in between. Like, look how healthy my skin looks. Am I crazy? That's a nice color. Flower Beauty, I'm telling you, such an amazing brand. I was trying to think of like why I hadn't tried more from them sooner, and I remember I think I picked up like one of their loose powders forever ago in a drugstore makeup tutorial, and I like didn't fall in love with it, and so I just kind of based my whole opinion on the brand off of that one product, and I didn't really reach for anything else from them for a while. And then they sent over a ton of their lipsticks one day, and I got back into it, and then I bought pretty much everything else they have. So now I'm a massive fan and I can't stop using it. It's literally like my favorite right now. I love to kind of soft smile because you can kind of see where my natural cheekbones are, and then I'll just kind of like curve a little bit of the product under there so that when I smile, it's nice and sculpted. And I love to put a little underneath the lip here. I'm going to take some on a littler brush and use this to sculpt the nose. I made sure to have just like a tiny bit of product though, because I don't want my nose to look stripy. I like to put some underneath the nose to shorten it, and then a little bit right across, and that just kind of gives like a button nose effect. I take what's left on the brush right in here, and I'll take the fluffy brush we used all over the face with the powder, and I'll lightly dust over everything just to make sure it's blended. Gosh, I'm loving how this is looking. Love it. Okay, I'm gonna do something a little different. I'm gonna actually go in with highlight, and then at the end, we're gonna go in with blush. Just because I'm using a really bright lip color, I wanna make sure I'm not applying like too much blush or not enough blush, because once you apply lip color, it changes everything. So I'm just gonna go into that same palette, the highlight, and oh my gosh, was not expecting that. Okay, that was a lot of highlight. I was not expecting that. I'm taking the translucent powder brush and buffing that away a little bit because I don't want a stripe, but I do want a nice glow. Wow, this palette is really nice. So I'm just buffing some to the front of the cheeks as well, down the center of the nose, Cupid's bow. Gosh, that is such a pigmented highlight. And a little bit above the brows here, so that when you turn the head, you kind of have that glow above the brow. But you want to keep the center matte, otherwise you will look oily quick, but a little glow above the brow looks really good. Let's move into eyes. I picked up this palette. They had like 4 of them, and I stood there for like 10 minutes trying to figure out which one I wanted, but I felt like to go with the bright lip, I wanted something golden. So I picked up the Golden Natural ES3 palette. Ta-da! It looks gorgeous, and it comes with a brush, which the brush in the packaging looks pretty darn good. So I'm going to use this for a couple of the shades. Here's the palette. Look how pretty. I mean, that is so me. I love neutrals, let's be honest. Let's try this brush. I'm going to go in with this matte taupey brown. Well, it's more warm than taupe. Warm brown shade, and I'm going to start to just buff this through the crease. Oh, by the way, this is new. I have never tried Flower Beauty eyeshadows before. In the pans, it reminds me a lot of the CoverGirl kind of vibe. The CoverGirl eyeshadows, which are some of my favorites from the drugstore. I feel like they're an amazing formula. So I was really excited to try this, and I'm already blown away. This brush is fantastic. I'm gonna put some on the lower lash line and blend it together so we kind of have like a really soft cat eye shape. That just helps lift and elongate the eyes. It's really flattering on everybody. And same thing on this eye. Geez, this makeup look is looking like $1,000,000, but it wasn't. It was affordable. I get so excited when I find great affordable products. I feel like it used to be that, you know, everybody was like kind of like rude toward drugstore makeup. I feel like I even got that way at one point, like, oh, you know, drugstore products just aren't as high quality as high end. But now that I've really dug into the drugstore, I completely disagree with that statement. I feel like it's almost the same. Like it's almost the same type of gamble of loving or hating a product, whether it's from Sephora or Ulta or it's from Walmart or Walgreens. Do you know what I mean? Like I have returned things to Sephora just as much as I've returned things to the drugstore, and I have loved things just as much as Sephora products and sometimes even more depending on the product. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that some of these smaller drugstore brands are owned by bigger companies. And so a lot of times the formulas are like so similar, so similar. They might just use maybe a couple less expensive ingredients or less expensive packaging. If you think about it, the packaging could be a major part of the higher price tag on some of the Sephora items. But at the end of the day, what if it's the same stuff? Do you know what I mean? I love the drugstore. I love all things. I love high-end stuff too. I love splurging, and I do feel like there are some formulas. There are some formulas that are expensive because they have expensive ingredients. Okay, really loving that shade all over. I'm so excited to dip into some of these shimmery shades though, and I'm not sure how bronze I want to go. I'm kind of into this one. Can you guys see that? I'm into this one right here. It's kind of rosy gold, mid-tone gold shade. So let's just go in with this with my finger. Yeah, I like that. I'm just patting that on with my finger all over the lid, not really concerned about it being super precise right now, just kind of getting the pigment on. It's definitely more of a soft eyeshadow, like a soft shimmer. It's not like a Morphe, you know, super pigmented, super metallic type of shadow, but for this look, I think it's gonna be perfect. And then I'm just gonna take that on a smaller brush and run it all the way across the lower lash line as well. Then I'm taking this shade right here, and even though it's a shimmery shade, I'm gonna actually use this to define the outer corner. I normally will use a matte shade, but I just want this eye look in particular to look really glowy and ethereal. So we're gonna use shimmer to define as well. There's not rules about that. I'm just kind of stuck in the habit of using a matte shadow to define the outer corners. And this will do that, but just in a more subtle way. And now we're going into this really light shade. You can hardly even see it with the white packaging. This one, the first shade in the palette. I want to see how this looks in the inner corner of the eye. You know what? It's not as like blinding as I expected, and I want it pretty blinding. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that shadow to the brow bone because I'm okay with it being softer up there, but I'm gonna wet the brush for the inner corner. So I'm just gonna get a good amount on my brush, spray it with some setting spray. Hopefully this works. Oh wow, that worked. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start to blend that out in the inner corner, bringing it up into the other shadows a little bit more and along the lower lash line slightly. I'm gonna try to kind of dust away any fallout. It's a pretty intense inner corner compared to what I usually do, but I like it, so we're just gonna leave it. I actually picked up another Flower Beauty Warrior Mascara, Lash Warrior Mascara, because if you guys watched when I first tried this out, I bought the fiercest black shade, opened it, and it was brown on the inside. That has never happened to me ever. So I picked this up, and while I was in the car, I opened it to make sure that it was black, and it is. So we're good to go. I really like the formula of the brown one, but I typically go for black mascara. And with this look especially, I wanted a black mascara. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply this to the top and bottom lashes. All right, so we're actually gonna go into the lips now, and then I can kind of adjust the complexion depending on what this looks like. So I'm gonna start off with the Petal Pout lip liner in the shade Cherry. I almost forgot. I normally like to wipe off any foundation because then that kind of avoids like the weird cakey stuff you get in the inner part of your lip. That always happens if I have foundation on my lips. So I'm gonna line and fill in the lips with this. The reason I'm gonna fill in the lips is so that it really lasts a long time. Even that color alone is so pretty, but I was really inspired to use this color right here, which is a little bit more of a pink, but I think on top of this more red lip liner, it will look gorgeous. This is the Flower Beauty Miracle Matte Lip in the shade Melon Pop. So I'm just gonna go ahead and apply this all over the lips right on top of the lip liner. So I'm applying a little bit and then pressing it in with my finger. It kind of smells like Play-Doh. Takes me back to my childhood. I'm taking some Flower Beauty concealer on a concealer brush, and I'm using it to just clean up these edges here so I have a really nice precise line on the ends. And I'm gonna set that with a little bit of powder. That lip combo is so pretty. I just need a little more lip liner in there. So now we can kind of assess the complexion again and see what we need more of. I love adding more bronzer, and I do feel like we need a little bit more warmth after putting on the lip color. Sometimes brighter or redder lip colors can sometimes make me look a little more washed out than I want to be. And I just want this to be more of a spring/summer look, which means we need more bronzer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and take that same palette we were using before and just kind of reapply bronzer. And I even want my nose to to be a little more precise. So I'm adding a tad bit more product on the sides of the nose and underneath, buffing it out again a little bit. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more highlight to the higher points of the cheek. So not all over where we applied it, but just the very tippy top with like the tip of my brush. Put a little more on the cupid's bow. And actually, I'm gonna take the brush that we used for the inner corner, and I'm gonna pop a little bit of this highlight on top of our inner corner shadow. And I think that will just help tie everything in. Plus, I'm really into that highlight shade. It's super, super bold. I'm just kind of brushing it in to the other shadows, maybe adding what's left on the brush right under the brow. Taking my big fluffy brush and blending out the complexion again, just to really make sure that we look nice and airbrushed. Now we will go in with the blush. I'm just gonna go into that same face palette and use this blush. You guys know I normally use the Flower Beauty Sweet Pea blush, but it's a little bit too cool tone for this makeup look. So I feel like this is a little more, I mean, it's still cool tone, but it's got a little bit more of a brightness to it. So I'm gonna use this and just really lightly sweep it on the apples of the cheeks. Yes. Now we're feeling complete. I love blush. This is looking so much better than I ever planned, and I'm really happy about it. So let's seal the deal with the Flower Beauty Seal the Deal Long Lasting Setting Spray. Oop, nope, grabbed the wrong one. I want to use the hydrating one. I was going to use the matte one, but I feel like with the powder, we already are kind of a little bit matte, and I want to just make this look so springy and dewy and glowy, so let's go for it. Just going to spray this all over the skin. I sprayed a little bit more on the sides of the face to really help that highlight melt into the skin. I should have picked up a brow gel from Flower Beauty, forgot, and I can't live without a brow gel. So I'm gonna use one from the drugstore. This is the L'Oreal Paris Brow Stylist Boost and Set Brow Mascara. This is the clear one. I've been trying out the other colored one. The one that I had was a little bit too dark, so let's try the clear. I like this. Oh yeah. I like how that looks because it kept the softness of that brow pencil, but added the feathery effect, which is my favorite. All right, you guys, that is it. That is everything. This is my finished look. I love how this turned out. Guys, this looks so high-end, it's not even funny. Like, the products are so beautiful. I loved everything that I used today. The only thing that I was like, there's probably better for me out there, it was the brow pencil, but I still made it work. I still feel like it looks nice. I just personally have a really certain type of formula that I look for in a brow pencil because my brows are particular and I like them a certain way. Besides that though, literally everything I used, I love. This face palette I thought was fantastic. I love the highlighter, the blush was great, the bronzer was even beautiful. I just feel so glowy, I feel so radiant, I feel ready for spring. This kind of look makes me so confident. I love a bold lip. I hope you guys love this as much as I do. Let me know if there's any Flower Beauty products that I did not use, that I have not tried, that you think I need to try. It could be something that's in a different shade. Like if you guys like another shade of this blush, let me know. If you like another lip shade, let me know. Because honestly, I think this is one of the best brands at the drugstore right now. I'm so happy with how everything turned out. So that is it. If you are new here, please join the family by hitting the subscribe button. I would love to have you on board. If you guys are already subscribers but you want to be notified every time I post, since I do post 3 times a week, just go ahead and click on the notification bell, and that means you'll get notified every time I upload. I love you guys so much. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you in my next video. Love you. Bye!